What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Jalen Talk Sports. Today we are going to be discussing the top fits for Cooper Flagg in the next NBA draft. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think down below. Let's get right into it. So the first team we're going to be discussing is the Washington Wizards. Why do I think Cooper Flagg is a good fit for the Washington Wizards? They have a very strong young core. They're building something there. I don't know if you know, but they have 4 first-round picks from the last year's draft on their roster now. And A.J. Johnson, Keyshawn George, Bub Carrington, and Alexander Sarr. And then you add the best prospect we've seen since Zion Williamson into that equation, and you have something special there. A really strong young core. It's a medium pressure market. Even though it's a big sports market, they're not on you like a Boston or a Los Angeles. You can kind of grow and develop. He has the opportunity to come in and be the main guy for the Wizards. That thing, because I think he's been the main guy his entire basketball career. So slotting into being the number one guy is nothing new for him. He's used to that pressure. He's used to being the guy who takes the big shot when it matters. But at the same time, he's sharing the spotlight with a lot of talented young guys, and they can grow and develop. You know, when you have a team full of young players, they kind of end up being like a college team. You know, Cooper Flagg is young. You probably want to surround him with pieces who are similar in age and interest. So the chemistry is good. Everything just flows correctly for Flagg. And then the last thing is he's a seamless fit into their current rotation. This is how I projected it with Carrington, Poole, George, Flagg, and Sarr. Right now, George is playing the 4. I'm moving him to the 3. He just slots in perfectly into the lineup. And that's what you want. You want him to play in a natural position. And that's why I think the Wizards are a good fit for Flagg. The next team is Utah Jazz. Utah is a really good organization. They have a really good development staff. They have a really good coach. And they have a really good front office. Headed by Danny Ainge, who built that roster that Boston had that won the championship last year. Even though he wasn't there when they won the championship and he didn't make that Marcus Smart trade, he was fundamental into getting the core guys, such as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. It's a small market. I want to emphasize the small market thing. Utah is a small basketball market. It's a small sports market. There's no real pressure here. The pressure comes from being the first overall pick. But actual playing wise, no one's watching you like that. You're not getting those nationally televised games every week. You know, unless you build this team into something that people want to watch all the time. And Cooper can help that. He can boost their economic value, make Utah a place that people may actually want to go to. He will be the main guy. There's no question about that. He's the main guy if he comes here. Yes, he's going to have Lauri Markkanen, but he's better than Lauri Markkanen. He will be better than Lauri Markkanen in the NBA. He's a seamless fit into the rotation. I would put Flagg at the 3, possibly the 4. Because if they take him, what is the direction that the roster goes in? I envision 2 ways where it can go, where they keep the same roster they have now, or they move off some of the veteran pieces, like a Markkanen, like a Colin Sexton, like a Jordan Clarkson. But in this lineup that I envision for them, I have them keeping Markkanen. Because you have a good amount of young pieces where you can try to start to compete. Try to make a run in the West to get to the playoffs. So that's why I'd keep Markkanen, maybe keep him for half a season and let him go. and then you can move Sensabaugh back to the 3 and put Keontae George at the shooting guard or whatever. It works. I like the fit. That's a really big lineup, with Sensabaugh being 6'5", and then you have Laurie and Kessler kind of being like a twin tower thing with Flagg and his length. It sounds nice. I can picture it happening on the court, and I can see it working for a little bit. My next team is Charlotte, the Hornets. And I really, really actually like this fit for Cooper Flagg. One, he gets to stay in North Carolina. What he's done at Duke is revolutionary, yes. But a lot of people who go to Duke are from Carolina. So he has that fan base already in the state. He gets to fit in beside LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Mark Williams. I think this whole time they've had Melo, they just needed another serious piece to their roster. And Flagg brings that. They have a new organizational structure. What I mean by that is there's a new head coach in town with Charles Lee, I believe his name is. And then they have the new GM, the new owner. It's not the Hornets of the past. Hopefully bringing in those guys that they brought in and then adding Flagg to the mix will help this organization get to a place where me, you, and everyone else takes them seriously. When you look at the potential lineup, you throw Flagg in at the power forward position beside Mark Williams at the center, Bridges at the small forward. They can do a little alternation there. And then you have Brandon and Ball at the backcourt. And what I notice about this is a really big lineup. Size-wise, they're big. If you can get LaMelo to lock in on the defensive end of the court, they could really be a problem because the length is there. 3 of these guys can play small forward for you with Miller, Bridges, and Flagg. And then Ball, he's already an oversized point guard. So it works in a way, I think, where they can actually make the playoffs in the East. The East is in a hard conference right now. It's top heavy and the bottom is extremely weak. You can squeak into that top half of the Eastern Conference if you add a Flagg to this type of team. And the last team is like my wild card. You know how last year Atlanta jumped from 10 with the lottery odds and they ended up with 1 and they got Ricochet. I think that could possibly happen to a team like the Raptors, who are sitting at 7th in the odds. The Raptors are a great organization, and I'm not saying that just because I'm a Raptors fan. It is one of the best organizations in the league, and the players will tell you that. It's one of the best organizations. Something I don't want for Cooper Flagg is to end up in a spot where the organization isn't going to do the right things to support him, doesn't have a good track record of developing their players, and Toronto is quite the opposite. They have a great organization and they have a great development staff, and they've had a proven track record of developing players. If you look at their rookie class from this past season with Shed, Mogbo, and Walter, each of those players could be contributing members of that rotation. They came in and they made instant impacts for this team. And down the stretch when the starters were sitting out, they came and they played. Toronto is building something, is what I'm saying. It's reminiscent of that 2018 roster when they had DeMar and the bench mob with Norm Van Vliet. Who else was there? DeLon Wright, people like that. You kind of, you see the foundation with a Walter and a Grady Dick and Shed and Mogbo, where they can be the next bench mob. And then you allow him to develop. This roster is pretty strong in terms of people who will play positions like Cooper Flagg. He doesn't have to be the guy day one. He can learn. He can take his time becoming who we think he can be. You know, he can become the 1A to 1B or just the 1A in general. besides Scotty Barnes long term. I like their fit because they're very different while they're similar at the same time. Size wise, they're similar, but their play style is different, even though they operate in some of the same areas. What I did with the starting lineup, the potential starting lineup that they can have, I put Barnes at the point guard and I move quickly to the bench or quickly can get traded. Either one. And why I did this is because Scotty is a better facilitator than scorer. He's proven this time and time again. So if you put Flagg at the 4 and you put Barnes at the 1, Barrett at the 2, Ingram at the 3, and Podol at the 5, do you know what that creates? I don't know if anyone remembers, but when they first got Scotty Barnes on the team, they kind of shifted to the 6'9" vision or whatever it was called, where they had really lengthy guys and they didn't have the center. Now they have a center in Podol. And then you add him with these 6'7" to 6'9" guys within the rest of the starting lineup. Ingram locking on defense. Barrett locking on defense. Flagg locking on defense. Barnes locking on defense. Podol locking on defense. Do you know what that can become? That's a scary team because they have defensive versatility and they have offensive versatility. How many point guards could really guard Scotty Barnes one-on-one? He's too big, he's too strong, and he sees the courts over all of them. That's why I think Cooper Flagg is a perfect fit for the Raptors, because he can come in. He doesn't have to be the man right away. He can develop in, and he'd be part of a great lineup. But let me know what you think. Tell me what other teams you think Cooper Flagg fits on. I think the Nets are another good option for him. I don't want Philly, but these are a couple teams that I think he'd fit on. And I want to know what you guys think. So comment down below. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.